Thank you so much for accepting our invitation to today's podcast on strategic infrastructure project in Egypt. You are Professor of Economics at Ain Shams University, and you are also the President at Liberal Forum Egypt. Thank you again, Professor, for joining us today.
You're welcome.
Professor, I will straight away go into my first question, which is one of the main drivers of growth in Egypt is the construction sector. With new cities and mega projects that's been built, you have example of new administrative capital, which is worth about $58 billion according to ABiQ Business Intelligence. You have North City worth $32 billion. We also have another interesting project, which is called Endaba Nuclear Power Plant, which is worth about $29 billion according to ABiQ, where around 4,800 megawatt of nuclear power plant will be built. My first question to you is, what, in your view, make this project strategic for Egypt, or why the strong emphasis on infrastructure development or construction in the Egyptian economy, Professor?
Yes, actually, these projects are quite important and essential for any economic development, since infrastructure can be regarded as a cornerstone for attracting investment, as well as Egypt is full of resources, unexploited resources. And in order to attract investment by Egyptians, on the regional level, on the international level, in order to attract foreign investments, paving the way for that is required good infrastructure. From here it comes the importance of such infrastructure, including trying to diversify sources of energy by including nuclear for projects, for industry, so that to make the right mix energy, including renewable energy. Egypt has done great effort towards solar energy in Bemban. So my answer to your question that infrastructure was quite essential to attract investment, to enhance investment, so that to increase the rate of growth for Egypt using unexploited resources that may enable Egypt to reach a rate of growth exceeding quite to 8%.
Right. These projects are overshadowed, in my opinion, with a relatively high youth unemployment in Egypt. According to the World Bank, is 24.3%. Why this contradiction? I mean, infrastructure usually is good to create short-term jobs, especially for the youth. Why is it that despite everything being done, the youth unemployment is still relatively high?
Actually, because infrastructure is not enough to absorb highly intensified population growth like in Egypt, which means that every year 1 million are introduced into the labor market. And, this needs diversification of economic activities so that to absorb, this employment. And from my point of view, what we lacked during the last period is to take care of the structural reform, which is enhancing our productive capacities in the sectors that are quite important to absorb labor opportunities, such as the industrial sector, the agriculture sector, and information technology. Nowadays, we are turning into that by concentrating on the real sectors of the economy. Our industrial sector is full of capabilities, either by increasing the local content. Still, we are relying on importation for the industrial sector by a large percentage. So we have a lot of potentialities for enhancing the local contents of our industrial sector, as well as in information technology. You can notice everywhere how Egyptians are successful everywhere to form entrepreneurs in and successful business in information technology by referring to digital marketing and so on. So this is what we are concentrating on for this period, and we are trying to, enhance the incentives for investment in order to enlarge our productive capacities in the real sectors.
Thank you so much, Professor. One last question. The top financer of ongoing infrastructure projects in Egypt are well diversified. According to ABiQ Business Intelligence, you have, for example, the National Bank of Egypt, you have Bank MIS, you have US Exim Bank, the Export-Import Bank of China, and the Africa Development Bank, to name a few. It is clear that, like I said, it is well diversified, but in at least 17 African countries, including Ethiopia, China dominates. My question to you, Professor, is, do you see China playing a bigger role in the future, to financing infrastructure in Egypt, and why?
Actually, Egypt is having a very strong relation with China. We used to have a deficit in our balance of trade with China, very wide, trade deficits. We are importing by more. We used to import by 12 billion and export only $1 billion. Nowadays, we are trying to reduce this gap between import and export. But beside, we are involving in the Belt and Road project, as well as the Chinese are working quite well in the industrial area in Suez Canal by enhancing some very important industries such as fiberglass and so on, and they are actually expanding. So building our relations, we have historical relations with China, and it's our interest, starting from economic reform, to diversify our economic relations with all countries of the world according to interest of Egypt. So we have good relations with United States, with Europe. We have a partnership with Europe and with China, and Asian countries. They are quite important for us to transfer technology, to exchange, to attract investment, and so on. Besides, our main interest in Africa, since we are actually an African country, looking forward to enhance the capabilities of African economies under the vision of 2063. And Egypt, during the presidency of African Union, has done a lot towards enhancing the capabilities of African countries, either by training or by trying to enhance intra-investment and intra-trade. And nowadays we have to activate the free trade area that has taken part among African countries towards enhancing their capabilities, since the most important reason nowadays for the advancement of the African continent is industrialization. And Egypt, nowadays, when we are going to have a COP27 next November, Egypt is going to introduce and to represent Africa as a continent affected seriously by climate change and not receiving the amount of finance necessary to address such impact through mitigation and adaptation.
Thank you so much, Professor. That was so insightful. We came to an end of our podcast. I just want to ask you anything else you would like to add,
No, it's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.